if somebody came to me and said, hey, listen, Jim Carrey wants to do a movie with you. He wants to co-star in a movie with you. I need you to cut 45 pounds in the next 3 months. I'd be like, okay.
You do it.
Like this.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the show. There's no telling where we'll go. So come and share a laugh on the Imp and Skizz podcast.
Well, we're back again. You ready for another one?
I'm ready, man. This is, it went really, I had so much fun last time. I was getting worried. I don't know how you felt, but I was like,
I didn't know what to think.
Well,
man.
we talked about it. If it sucks, it sucks, but it did not. And it was great.
That was like the whole idea of the podcast was just like, what do we say? Just go, right? Just hit record, see what happens. We did. I didn't know where we were going to even land the podcast.
Right.
Like, what are people listening to this podcast on? Is it Spotify? Is it Apple? Is it Google? I didn't even know those were, well, I knew they existed, but apparently there's a ton of different podcast platforms. I learned because I had to like go to each and every one of them and say, please put our podcast on this platform, please.
When I started looking at it too, I was like, what's happening? Like, why is there so many ways to do this? And then you went and did the research, which is super helpful.
We had a little bit of a snafu with it because when I went to put the podcast on the platforms, it would say, okay, this may take 5 to 14 days for this podcast to be listed in our podcast directory.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's Tuesday.
Yeah.
We're supposed to release on Friday, so I'm going to need you to shorten that time up. So I was like, okay, whatever. You know, I'll put it in for review, and if it's not up by Friday, so be it. So I put it in on Spotify first, because, like, that's the biggest, apparently.
Yeah.
So I put it in for Spotify, and, like, an hour later, Spotify's like
that.
Hey, your podcast has been reviewed, and it's published. Everyone can look for it now.
Maybe it was reviewed by a fan.
Yeah,
you know?
maybe. Yeah, they
Who knows?
expedited it. So, like, all week long, pretty much, our podcast was available. And we were just kind of like, let's keep it under wraps, until Friday and officially release it. And it's out there now.
It's out there.
Obviously.
Now it's totally legit. And here we are doing episode number 2. And I was, we talked a little bit about the fact that we have so many different items. And what we want to do is we kind of want to dive into something we talked a little bit about last time. And that's about, pulling triggers, just getting after it when there's something that you want to go for, when there's something that you want to change in your life. And I think that we both have a lot of mileage in regards to what is it to just go for something, and what is stopping you? What is
that's the big question, right? Like, when it came to this podcast, we talked about it, and well, we had legit reasons for what's stopping us. We had no place to actually record it until now.
Yeah.
But as far as like that day came, and it was like we could have waffled about what we're going to talk about. We could have waffled about the name of the pod. There's so many things we could have waffled about that we could have had like failure to launch.
Yep.
Right. So this topic of like what's stopping you, there's I think different avenues that stop people from doing things that they want to accomplish in life, whether it's starting a podcast, starting a diet, or a new health regimen or exercise or whatever, right? Maybe going to school for a degree.
Yep.
Like, there's many things that could stop somebody. And as I kind of started to think about it and break it down, it's like, okay, well, there's logistics, right? We had logistics kind of holding us back on this one. There's time. Time is something that we all only have X amount of, right?
Yep.
Like, if you think about it, time is like the one great leveler of mankind, because aside from like sickness and death and stuff, like, we all have 24 hours in a day.
Yep.
And it's our choice how we use it. Fear, the fear of starting going into the unknown. I mean, there's lots of different reasons, I think, why people wouldn't just pull the trigger and get started on something.
Yeah.
And I think we should just dive into those and like talk about what stopped us from doing stuff in the past, and what are things that we didn't let stop us. Like we talked about last week, the YouTube channel. Like, I started my YouTube channel. We could have got into the weeds about all that stuff, the LLCs and the money and stuff. We touched on it, but I didn't. I just pulled the trigger and went for it. And obviously it's a good thing.
Yeah.
It
worked out well for you.
So that's kind of what I was thinking we could get into this week.
I can dig it, because what we sort of mentioned last time was the fact that there's a million reasons not to do something, right? And when you want to do something, all those things are going to peek their ugly heads, right? And I had a girl I was doing personal training for, just for a short bit of time. She wanted to make a change in her life. And I had said, you need to understand on this first session that there's 2 of you in this room right now. This is not the 2 lives, 1 life thing. It's not that.
Right.
I said, there's 2 of you in this room right now. And one of them is going to tell you that you're not worth this, that you're too old to do this, that you're too out of shape to do this. You don't deserve it. You can't do it. That voice is going to just continue to peck at you. And the other version of you is the one that called me and said that you wanted to do this. And I said that first girl, she's not allowed in this room. And I said, so if you're going to allow her in this room, I don't want any part of this.
Yeah.
I want to talk to the second girl, and that's it. And she's like, okay. And my point being there is that when you do want to do something, everybody has something to offer or something that they want to do. If you want to be a content creator, if you want to do music, if you want to do dance, you want to act, you want to sing, whatever it is, you want to do something, you want to change in your life, you want to push something. There's really good news that I have to tell everybody is that you are legitimately the only person that can stop you.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks that there's some sort of external force. And I'm not trying to suggest for a moment that it's easy. It's not going to be easy. Right. I always compare it to the caterpillar turning to a butterfly. I can guarantee you that during that moment, the butterfly is like, ow, you know what I mean? It probably hurts the whole time. It's change hurts.
Yeah.
It's discomfort should be welcome, and you have to embrace and be okay with it. And you have to keep in your head that when you want to do something, when you want to change, or maybe it's not even change, you want to do something in your life. You have complete control. I think people are going to try to stop you. People are going to try to tell you can't do it. Forget it. They put them over there. You are in control. You are the only one that can actually stop you when you want to do something.
Exactly. I mean, there's something really profound in what you just said, and that was along the lines of embracing being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right? Because most times when you're trying to make a change in what you're doing or go after a dream, like you said, it's going to be an uphill battle. And if you really want it, you'll persevere through all that, right? But you have to understand, like, not everything in life is going to be totally comfortable.
Nope.
Like was it comfortable staying up till 2 a.m.? Your phone's going
I'm
off.
so
That's
sorry.
okay. We're professional podcasters.
We're professional podcasters, and I didn't hit mute. It's over there.
Hey, this is part of the
I'm
show.
a pro.
We're real.
Yeah.
We're not going to cut stuff. So was it comfortable working 40 hours a week, staying up, getting the 3 kids to bed at 9 o'clock at night, and then kissing the wife goodnight when she would go to bed, and then going to my computer and recording videos until 1 a.m. and then editing, and then hitting render, going to sleep for a few hours, and then getting up at 5 a.m. to get ready for work, publish the video on my way out the door, and then drive, 45 minutes or however long the drive was, and doing that a few times a week. No.
Yeah.
Obviously that was uncomfortable. Obviously that was a strain, but I really wanted it so bad that I was willing to make the sacrifices. And I think that's the key too, is anytime you want to do something, even something as small as this podcast right now, right? We just spent, and we'll peel back the curtains. We might as well. We just spent 2 hours at least, at least 3 maybe. It was a tough one.
Yeah.
Setting up. We got new cameras and stuff. We're trying to better our quality. We talked about that last week when we said we're just going to hit go.
Yep.
There are things we're going to learn. We looked at the footage afterwards and we said, oh, our cameras are all different. They don't look great from every angle. And so we bought new cameras, and it took us a while to get them set up today. And they're probably still not perfect.
No, they're probably not. Worried I am that one's not doing what I wanted to do.
Are you recording?
Yes.
Can you guys see my face when it's on me? I hope so.
I see the dot.
Yeah.
So
okay.
it's the bottom line is this: there's 3 levels of wanting something. You either don't want it, you kind of want it, or you want it. Right? There's I'm a very reductive person, and it comes down to, when it comes to doing something or wanting something, you either don't want it, you kind of want it, or you want it. And believe it or not, don't want it and kind of want it they hang out together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The you want it, that is the guy that is just like, I'm on another level. And that's who you were when you were doing everything that you just stepped through. And it also comes, and you didn't kind of go after it. You decided, I want this. This is what I'm doing, right? I don't know if you remember this. I did a short little, I did a 30-day no shave stream streak. It's so always still hard for me to say.
Stream streak.
Yeah, that's. I used to be
that is a
clean.
tongue
I
twister.
used to be clean shaven all the time, and it's what's funny is it kicked off this beard.
This is why you have a beard. Mine's a different reason, but yeah.
Yeah, that's why. So I decided to do this, and I said, and every once in a while in life is I will be like, this is something that's going to happen, right? And I don't do this very often because I know when I do, I'm not looking back, and it's super discomfort. But I wanted to do this, so I decided Monday through Friday for 4 straight weeks I was gonna not shave and stream, and it's obviously difficult when you're working and all that stuff because things get in the way and my all the different schedules. Well, I made the commitment and I sent it out there, and you were like you were proud of me and happy, and you're like, dude, this is going to be awesome. Yeah. Don't deviate. I'm like, no, I'm going to do this.
Don't miss a single one.
Yeah. That night, after I announced that I'm doing this, that night, a very good buddy of mine is like, hey, I signed us up to coach. I'm all, oh God. You know what I mean? I was like, because what had happened was like a couple months earlier, he was like, would you like to coach with me? Because, we're softball dads and we know what we're doing. And I was like, that does sound like fun. I didn't know he meant right away.
Fun. That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Let me know when
yeah.
you're thinking about doing this for
Yes.
real.
Yes. I'm not, but at the same time, I said I would do it. And so now I'm going to. So my brain's like, how are you going to pull this off? Yeah. And you were a little pissed.
Yeah.
You were like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you taking up because you know me, I'm always like, you're busy. Everybody's busy, but I'm almost like chronic with it, right? Yeah. And you're like, what are you doing? Yeah. You're like, you're gonna do this stream thing, and now you're coaching. Yeah. And I was like, I can do both. I'll figure it out. And it got to it. It was not easy, dude. But I was like, failing is not on the table, for coaching or this or whatever. And it got to a point to where I was either like wrapping up the stream and just booking it to the field, or I was wrapping up practice and then booking it home or whatever it was. It made it really miserable for 4 weeks. You know what I mean? To do that and to try to bring the energy during the streams and all that. I remember being like, well, this is discomfort. You have to be, I was going to do this. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do. But there's another element of this, and it's what is it that you can use to fuel you? You know what I mean? And I have I want to tell you a little, but before I say it, I want to hear what are the things that motivate you, because everybody needs to know that there's so many different types of fuel, right? And it can be people doubting you. It could be just the fact that you want something. It could be that you want to stay busy, whatever it is. There's so many different types of fuel, and there's no wrong source. It's whatever keeps you going.
Yeah. I'd say my number one has always been providing, being able to make sure I can provide for my family. Yeah. Funny story, and I don't know if I've ever told you this, but the first time I met my wife's dad, he kind of grilled me, like, what's your plan? He did that. Like, what is your plan? And I could see what he was getting at. He wanted to make sure no matter what, I had a solid plan for my life and how I was going to be able to make sure I could provide for my family and put them in a space where they'll be comfortable, right? Make sure that they have a roof over their head, food on the table, place to sleep at night, all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of driven me throughout my whole life with my family now, is like, how can I continue to make sure that we are good for the rest of our lives, right? And future generations and things like that. So I'm always trying to just make sure that I'm improving everything I do. I'm looking at the future. I'm smart with my money, all that kind of stuff. And it's obviously pushed me to try to be successful in everything I do, whether it be, a desk job doing software development. Obviously I did okay with that job. And then now with the content creation piece, I pushed hard to make sure that was going to end up being successful. And I mean, the struggle, how me making the decision to quit a solid job that I knew I was going to get a paycheck every week to do this was a real tough decision, because it was a gamble. And that's something that I was afraid to do, was gamble with how I provide for my family. Yeah. And so that decision did not come lightly. And I probably waited longer than I should have to pull the trigger. But, yeah, I did. I finally said, forget the fear. I'm just gonna do it.
It's hard, right? Yeah. And I've thought about that too, because obviously, I mean, we're very transparent in where we're at, and you've soared and you're doing your thing, and I want to make it happen for me as well, or whatever. And things are good. I love the content creation. I love streaming. I love all that stuff, right? I'm not in a place to where I can make that leap yet, and I'm at peace with that. I am in a place to where if it was just me, it was, if I was just supporting me, then it would be no problem. You know what I mean? I would just live, much lesser means, whatever. But that's not the case when you're supporting and you're also, somebody's going through college and stuff like that. That's fine. That's fine. So it's a similar story, and I want to pull that trigger, but there's a balance, right? There's a balance between like making that leap and being reckless. And you have to understand is what I got to do is, if it was just me, I would be like, I'm okay going hungry. You know what I mean? I'm okay going hungry to go chase this, but I'm not okay with my favorite people in the world going hungry so that I can chase this. And so there is a balance that you have to find, but you just have to find out what is it that motivates you, what drives you. And this morning I went to breakfast with my daughter, and I realized I knew what we were going to be talking about in this podcast. And I was like, you know what? She could have some insight on this. I'm kind of she's my daughter's, she's a winner through and through. Both my kids are. And she's a big time softball player. She's full ride and all that, but she is going to school on the other side of the country. And even though she has a full ride, it still costs a lot of money. And so there's like this thing where it's like, I just want to see her just, flourish. And boy, does she put in the work, and she always has in everything she does. So I asked her, I was like, what you always win. I was like, you always just better yourself or whatever you want. And it's beyond softball, the things that she does in regards to what makes her a winner in my eyes. And I asked her, I said, what is it that motivates you? Like what, I just want to know, like what keeps you going? Mm-hmm. And she said, I don't like it when other people are better than me at stuff.
Hey, that's that competitive spirit.
It was interesting. It was interesting. And she'll get uncomfortable. And she joined cross country as a senior in high school. She'd been doing softball her whole life, right? And she's not a cross country person, but she joined cross country with a bunch of people that had been doing it forever, dude. And she was getting whooped. Yeah. And all she did was just fight and fight. And she became one of the favorites of the cross country coach because they were just like, the work ethic on this guy was unbelievable. And now, dude, I guess I'll just run a half marathon today for fun. Like, you know what I mean? That's it's nuts. It's nuts.
Yeah. I was super stoked about the 1.5 miles I put in. And then it's like, oh, she did how many? Oh, wow. Yeah. So you brought up another good point too. It's like, okay, I came in here like, what's stopping you? Just do it. Like Nike slogan stuff. And there is a point to be made about like how reckless just doing it could be. Yeah. So we can't just ignore that and say, hey, everybody, you want to follow your dreams? Quit your job and
drop everything and go for it.
Yeah, just quit your job. It'll be fine. No, there are definitely some things to think about. But if you're looking at like other things that aren't gonna cost you, your house and family, then there's probably
a bleak.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's be clear here. We're not just yes, we want you to follow your dreams, but also you do need to also keep in mind, like it took me, like I said, months to really flush out whether or not I could pull the trigger and quit my job and do this thing full time. But more or less what I was wanting to talk about is, certain things like, what's stopping me from losing the weight I gained. I mean, we can talk about it. I probably gained 20 pounds during the pandemic. Actually, I know I did because I keep it track on an app. Mm-hmm. So, so the pandemic, things are getting better, right? We're back to some normalcy, and we can go back into gyms and all that stuff. So why haven't I started my health journey yet? I've like, I'll try a little bit. I'll get on the treadmill a little bit today. Oh, tomorrow not feeling it. Oh, I'll eat healthy for a few days. Oh, that was fun. I did well. Let me get some Culvers or whatever. Right. So what's holding me back from just pulling that trigger? And what it is, I realized, is I got comfortable being comfortable. Mm-hmm. That's the bottom line, right? Like, can afford it. Obviously, can life is great. I don't have to leave my house anymore, right? Like all these things have just gotten more and more comfortable for me to where now it's like really hard for me to get uncomfortable. Yeah. And what it's going to take, like you said, is what's going to light that fire that's going to change me from, I kind of want to lose that weight again because I really liked the way I looked 20 pounds ago compared to now. And, but I don't know if I really want to get up at 5 a.m. every day. And I don't know if I really want to eat healthy all the time. What's gonna lead me to like turn that switch to like, let's do it. Yeah.
And that's so I think you're kind of nailing it, right? So this is this is something I think is pretty universal, right? Let's focus on this one piece. There's anything that you want to go do is on the table in regards to what we're talking about, but let's just focus on the weight loss piece. Let's just do it for a second because it's very universal and a lot of people are feeling this. Yeah. And I'm very confident there's a ton of people right now saying, I'm very curious on what he's about to say. So you were just talking about how I put on the weight too. Obviously, I mean, we used to both be in better shape and all that stuff. Now, I'm going to say what I think 99 out of 100 people would say in regards to why they haven't lost the weight. 99 out of 100 people would say, well, because I'm older, it's hard to lose the weight. No, that's true. I don't have the time to. That's true. I don't know what foods I'm supposed to be eating. That's true for a lot of people. Yeah. Back to the time thing, I don't have the time. Oh, I have an injury. I can't be working out. That's probably true as well. This is not, I don't know if my heart can handle it. I can do that much stuff. That's probably true as well. I don't have the money for a gym. That's true. All of that means nothing. All of that means you're in the second category of, I kind of want it, right? Because when it comes down to it, the reason you're not losing the weight, this goes to you and myself, is that you don't want to. I mean, like, you don't want to. You kind of want it. I mean, it'd be nice.
It'd be nice.
It'd be nice.
It'd be nice if it could happen without work.
Yes, it would be nice. Yeah. Or even, I'm even fine with a little bit of work. You know what I mean? But when it comes down to it, if let me put it this way, right? If for some reason somebody were able to say, okay, ready? I can tell you this. This is the honest to goodness truth. If somebody came to me and said, hey, listen, Jim Carrey wants to do a movie with you. He wants to co-star in a movie with you. I need you to cut 45 pounds in the next 3 months. I'd be like, okay.
You do it.
Like this. Yeah. You know what I mean? There would be nothing stopping me. Yeah. Nothing. And what that means is that I have all the tools. You have all the tools. Oh, yeah. You just don't want it. That's all it is. When you know that you want something, that's when it's like, it's easy. It's easy peasy. It's going to hurt. I don't care that it's going to hurt. I don't care if to be in a movie with Jim Carrey, this is an example, or Tom Hanks or whatever, to do something like that, it would be like, tell me what you want. I'm not going to cut an arm off, but if it loses the weight, easy peasy. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, if you're in the space of making excuses, then you're not in the space of you actually do want to make it happen, regardless of, you were saying, so you started thinking about excuses, right? Because we're good at making excuses. Yeah. And one of the excuses I think is probably highest on most people's lists is time. Yeah. So the way I look at time, and like we mentioned earlier, like I said earlier, it's like the great equalizer. Time is the great equalizer in life. We all have 24 hours to in a day. Take out some of the variables, but we all have that time, and we all get to choose how we spend that time and maximize it. Right. And during those 24 hours, we make those decisions. We all have these decisions to make. What am I going to do with every minute or every second of that 24 hours? And we prioritize it. So when you say, I don't have time for something, it's not true, because other people make time for the same thing that you're saying you don't have time for. They make time. And all they've done is they've shifted their priority. Yeah. So like, maybe right now my priority is I need to spend 8 hours a day recording videos. Like, that's my priority. That's my number one priority. And because of that, I can't spend an hour a day working out. My first priority is actually my family, always. Right. But you get past that, it's like, okay, so I need to spend this amount of time working, this amount of time sleeping. And then you finally get down and you're like, oh, well, I guess I don't have time to work out. I don't have time to prepare healthy meals. And the truth is, it's like, if you really analyzed how you spent the day, you're going to find time that you could have reprioritized to do those things that you wanted to do, right? How much time do I spend on my phone playing games or Wordle or whatever, right? Or just sitting on the couch watching a television show, vegging out at night, that I could have changed to a healthier habit, like exercising or preparing healthy meals. Yeah. It's a mindset. Like, so anytime I hear that now, where somebody says, oh, I don't have time for that, not to be narcissistic, but I immediately think, yes, you do. You don't want to do that. Like, you don't want to make that a priority. So when you say you don't have time, it means it's just like, I'm not going to make that a priority in my life. Right. And for the most part, that's fine. Right. Like, depending on what it is, but you got to just understand that, like, yes, we all have the same amount of time. It's just how we use it. That's
Yeah.
our choice. We get to choose that.
Yeah, and it's up to you. It's just one of the resources that are at your discretion, and that's the same. And I'm with you on that, right? Like for what was it? So this is interesting. So I want to make this pursuit and the content creation. I'm going to continue the pursuit, I should say. And it was where I work. I would work Monday through Friday and stream and try to make videos on the weekend. I would just make videos, right? And now I've shifted away from making the videos for a little bit, and so I don't have videos to make on the weekend. So I started populating it with streaming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what you said the other day.
You've been streaming a lot.
Yeah, you're like, dude,
Yeah.
you're streaming a lot.
Yeah,
you
every
know,
day, pretty much.
And I'm like, I love it. I love doing it. And I want to keep doing it. And when it comes to, and you still have to, again, this is part of the reckless thing, right? There is such a thing as kind of going mad or whatever. But there'd be times where I would just be like, you know, it's a weekend. I'm looking forward to the time with my wife, and we would talk about what we want to do. And I'm like, well, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go work for 3 hours, and then let's go hang out in the pool or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I was like, my brain's like, if you don't give on the weekends, if you don't give at least 3 hours like per day or whatever, then you don't want this. You know what I mean? Like you don't want this. And my brain, I was okay saying I don't need to work the 15 hours on Saturday, 15 hours Sunday, but I definitely need to do I need to meet a barometer. So if I'm not doing something around 3 hours a day on the weekends, granted I'm doing everything in the week, then I don't want it. And that's the thing you got to ask yourself. Make those goals for yourself in regards to when are you going to hold yourself accountable, right?
Yeah.
If I want to get in better shape, pick a number and say, I'm going to work out 3 times a week or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I want to work out 3 times a week because that's my number. That's my number that if I do 2 times, then I don't want this. And I have to say this. If you discover that you don't want something, go easy on yourself. That's okay. So many people, they're downtrodden. They try something and they're in that second phase of they kind of want it, but they've convinced themselves that they're in the I want it phase, and then they fail and they think they're failures.
Yeah.
They think that they are not destined for this, they're not right for this, and they just do that awful self-talk. And then they just, what do you do then? You swim down, and the problem that you used to have suddenly starts getting much worse.
It's much worse because at that point, there's fear of failure before you even try, right? And I heard this quote the other day, and I can't remember who it was, unfortunately, but the quote goes something like this: "Fear will not prevent death, but fear will prevent life."
Yeah, very good.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of the idea of if you let fear rule your world, then you're not going to do things that you should be doing, right? Like you should be trying to make improvements and get better. Fear comes in many ways, like with content creation. I mean, there's this fear of imposter syndrome is a big one with content creators. I know firsthand. How many times do I get on Hermitcraft and look around and go, I'm not sure I actually belong here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's just so many amazing people doing amazing things with amazing skill set that I wonder if I'm in the same like realm as, or if I belong in the same realm as, like how did they whitelist me on this server and invite me to the group? Sometimes I wonder. But so imposter syndrome is definitely something that people will let them have fear of, and then let them, decide not to pursue whatever it is they want to pursue. And I don't have an answer for that because I still struggle with it personally. I mean, I don't know if you've ever felt like imposter syndrome, and I'm sure different realms, even outside of content creation, maybe.
Big time. Like, and what's funny is I that's how I found out what imposter syndrome was. Is I had gotten a different role at where I work now, and it was they just loved it. It was a temporary role, believe it or not. COVID had done some damage to where roles were shifting, and it was event management is what I used to do, and I was very good at it. And then COVID canceled all events, and so I was put in a different role for a little bit, and I just was like, oh wow, I'm just the worst. I can't be here. And what I didn't know is that everybody whom I was working with at the time thought I was just the bee's knees. They loved everything about it. And so they were asking me different kinds of questions. And what they were asking me was questions that were centered around how do you create your presentations? How do you have such confidence when you're speaking in, in front of people or whatever? And I started to talk about I don't remember the things I said, but I trusted these people, just 2 people, and I trusted them deeply. And I was alluding to the fact of, I don't belong here. You have no idea how many better candidates there are for me. So I've got to keep my eyes open, and I kept going and going. And, and the girl says, "Do you know what imposter syndrome is?" And I said, and it was literally, I'd never even heard of it.
Really?
And I was like, I don't. And then the guy goes, "'Cause you got it, man." Oh. And I was like, "What is it?" And he goes, "You're going to want to look that up." And so he goes, "First of all, let me just be very clear here. You have nothing to worry about." He's like, "We are thrilled you're here." And it made me feel like $1 million, but I was like, if they think this and I think this, where else am I doing that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What is it? So I looked it up, and for anybody who's actually doesn't know what imposter syndrome is, I mean, you basically think you're a fraud.
Right.
You're right. You always think you're faking it until you make it, and that you're fooling people. Right. And that's what I said. That's actually what I said at one point, is that they give me an assignment. And so I got the team together, and I made this thing happen, and I delivered the presentation to extremely high up people, and it was very well received. And later they said, how is it that you are able to present like that? And my answer, I said, because I'm a BS artist. You know what I mean? But they said, no, everything you said was true. And I'm like, yeah, I have no idea what I'm talking about. And they were like, "Why are you saying that?" And when you ask me about the content, I can explain all of it. Yeah. Why did I feel like I did? It was because a week before I didn't know anything, and I just carried it with me. Like I was just going to be caught, That fear sucks.
Yeah, it sure does. But I mean, I guess even though we haven't really exactly figured out how to conquer imposter syndrome, I think the key is that we haven't let it hold us back from trying.
Right.
Like when I got asked to join Hermitcraft, I could have easily been like, I know what those dudes do, and I'm not that good. So I'm not going to join because I don't want that to be blatantly obvious and everybody just hate me for it or whatever.
Right.
And I said, you know what? I'm going to, yes, I know they're better than me at this. I'm going to join, and I'm going to do everything I can to try to hold a candle to them.
Yeah.
Even if I don't meet the mark, I'm going to try. Right. Because I like we've been talking about, there was that piece of me that wanted it, like actually really, really wanted it, not just kind of wanted it.
Right.
I wanted to make it happen. And so I was willing to overcome some of those fears and live the life.
Yeah.
Right. Don't let it stop me.
Yeah. And imposter syndrome is just one of the many fears. I mean, there's so many different things, and it's about be cognizant of the fact that the fear exists. Just don't let it make your decisions.
Right.
That's it. And that's what it's, first of all, let me be very clear. Everybody listening, so much easier said than done. That's not lost on me, right? That's not lost to me. That's
the imposter syndrome kicking in. Are we supposed to be telling people this stuff? Because I'm not sure we believe now.
Yeah. No, and what's funny is I think, we talked a little bit about, drumming back in the day and in high school. And when I was a freshman in high school, obviously I didn't know you yet. And that drum line, like I said, was just one of the best in the nation. Yeah. And just for the record, if you're from Texas, you were whooping us. Texas high school lines they were actually the top. Anyways, so coming in, I wanted to play a very elite position as a freshman, and that's very, 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 very unwelcome. And I knew I wanted to. And before we could even have that discussion, I was still in 8th grade at the time. Before we could have that discussion, I was told by the veterans, it's not going to happen. And I didn't even ask for it. They just said, if anybody's thinking about this doesn't happen. Now I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm definitely going to do it now. Yeah. And so that fear was there, and the discomfort followed, because I did it. I got the position, and it was a point to where you talk about wanting it. When I would practice and you remember what it was to get the calluses. Yeah. I'd practice every single day. At home, my practices were not done until there was blood on my drum pad, which is ridiculous, right? And I remember my friends all didn't understand my life because I wouldn't hang out with my friends anymore. I'd hang out for like 10 minutes, and then I would be like, I got to go home and practice. They're like, you practice like 6 hours a day. I'm like, yeah, I have to be. I mean, you have any idea how good I have to become in a very short period of time? And so I would, if there was not blood on the pad, it wasn't good enough. And even with that, the I don't want to call it abuse, but like the ridiculous over the top hazing that was happening to me at that time was unreal, because I got the position and then instantly I was hated by all the people whom I admired and held in very high regard. Right. So it was one of those things. I'm
you
like,
proved them wrong. I mean, they told you that, they told you this is not going to happen, and you proved them wrong.
And they did not like that.
Yeah.
They didn't like that. But I mean, as you can imagine now, they've been my brothers for decades now, but it's one of those things where the fear was there, the pain was there, because there was, the hazing was very, very real. And it got to a point where I was like, yeah, you know what? There's nothing I can't do. There's nothing I can't do. If at this young of an age I'm getting through this, I'm like, there's nothing I can't do. Yeah. But I found myself being very careful about becoming obsessed with the want, you know what I mean? Because it was like, it absolutely consumed me, which is not a bad thing. Cause that's, and unfortunately at that exact chapter, that had to happen so that I could experience that success. Right. But you just got to be at peace with it. You got to be at peace with the fear, identify the fear, recognize it's there. It's not allowed to make your decisions. It just can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was just thinking about that. Like you almost, when you have something you want bad enough to pretty much do anything for it, you almost create an addiction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now me personally, I do have a bit of addictive personality. Like I can really, really addicted to Minecraft, got really addicted to CrossFit when we did it.
Yeah.
And so I go through these phases of getting addicted to certain things. And so, if you're going to tackle something and really go on a journey and get after it, it can feel like an addiction. And that's kind of like practicing 6 hours a day. You were addicted to getting better.
Yeah.
And so I feel that a lot of times with any time I'm trying to like really pursue something, a goal that I'm 100% vested in. It's like all I can think about.
Yeah.
Like this space we're in. I lost so many hours of sleep just like thinking about how to make this perfect and what this back wall was going to look like and stuff like that. Like it was going after a goal. My goal was to create a space that we could do this in and it would look good. And I got addicted to it to the point that it gets annoying for other people. It's all I could talk about with my family and everyone.
Well, you know what? I'm just going to say it. And this is another universal truth. Sometimes winners are annoying. And that's, I mean, it sounds funny, but it's true, because what winners do, and I don't want to talk about the impulse awesomeness anymore. We're not doing it.
Again?
We're not doing it. Okay. But you are a winner through and through. You always have been. We talked a little bit about it before. You're a winner through and through, and winners are reminders for a lot of people that they're not so much of a winner. I mean, that sounds really dark. It sounds really bad, but winners can be annoying, because it's like, what is happening? You just keep winning. It's like, well, it's not. I talk about how lucky you are all the time.
There's luck to it.
But we've talked. I told you, I was like, you understand, I don't actually think there's any actual luck. I like to razz you a little bit. You know what I mean? But the bottom line is, I mean, luck is it's a myth. Luck's a myth, right? You just you see something and you become laser focused on it, and then you go, and it's like you get it again. Oh, he did it again. He wins again. Yeah, the person who wins the foot race over and over again is the one who's running more than anybody else in between races, So it can be annoying. And sometimes it's nice to see you be human a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But even for, who it's actually annoying to sometimes is you, because the status quo for you is to win. And when you don't, you don't handle that very well.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, better that you handled Mario Kart.
Well, I don't really care about Mario Kart.
No, I don't like when things don't go my way. That is part of being. You get comfortable with the way things usually turn out, and when they don't turn out that way, it's uncomfortable. And so I don't like when things don't go my way. Call me spoiled or what, but
It's funny, man. Like we were like almost off topic, but it is still a fun conversation, because you and I, we went to, this is one of my favorite stories, and you're going to hate that I'm going to tell it, but I'm doing it. Yeah. We went to Topgolf. You and your wife, me and my wife, we went to Topgolf, and I'm not a good golfer by any means. I can connect every once in a while. And it keeps your score for you and all that stuff. Yeah. And I don't even understand. I still don't understand the scoring. Who cares, right? But I had a good round. Whatever. I had a good round. My score was higher than your score. Who cares? It's Topgolf. Who cares? You care.
I care.
You didn't like it. So what you did was you conjured up an image of the last time you went to Topgolf that had your score that was higher than my current score and showed me. I'm like, what is happening right now? And I was like, I just
wanted you to know I was having a bad round.
Yeah,
this is not my typical round. Okay?
Yeah, and I grabbed your arm. I'm like, look, you understand that I think you're awesome. I was like, what are you doing right now, dude? I can't win at something this silly for 5 minutes. You have to bring up a higher score from another day, and I wasn't there. What is that? And you did it so fast, too, because you were so unsettled. But I think that what is the most important takeaway is that and this is where I like to do this a lot when I'm streaming, and sometimes I do it going deep with Skizz or whatever. Mm-hmm. I'm talking to the people who are on their walk right now and who are listening to us, or who are driving in their car, or we're just playing in the background on the TV. You're maybe lying in bed, you have your AirPods in or whatever. I'm talking to you, and because I know that there's something that you've been wanting to do. It could be weight loss. It could be a new talent that you want to pick up. Mm-hmm. It could be maybe you just want to dedicate more time to yourself from a restful standpoint. Yeah. Maybe you yourself want to get into content creation. Who knows, right? Maybe you want to do stand-up comedy or whatever it is, right? I'm talking to you because this has been a splinter in your mind that you have just been living with. Yeah. It's been a hole in your life that you've just been okay with, right? And when you have a splinter in your finger, it doesn't hurt until you rub it and touch it, right? And this is the same thing when you get a reminder in regards to this is a change I've been wanting in my life. Maybe you catch yourself in the mirror and you don't like it. You just kind of want it. You just kind of want it. And it doesn't mean that you can't actually want it, but it does mean that you need to get deliberate. Yeah. It means that you need to make some decisions, and you Impulse, you just crushed it when you talked about the sacrifices that you have to make. You got to go get uncomfortable. You got to be at peace with the fact you're going to probably spend some money. You're going to lose some time. You're going to maybe not feel so good or whatever it is. But when you want something, put yourself in that third category and actually go get it. Go get in motion, get busy. Yeah. And only then are you going to actually see a world that is that you deserve. You know, you deserved it the whole time, but you convinced yourself somehow. Nobody else convinced you. Okay. Somebody may have said something. People can be nasty. Somebody may have said something to try to bring you down a peg. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry. I'm a huge sticks and stones guy, right? Even though there is merit that words do carry weight. I get that, but this is up to you. This is up to you to go do it. And right now you're probably a lot of you nodding your heads saying he's right. So do something about it.
What are you waiting for?
Yeah. Here's my challenge. My challenge is this. If you haven't taken some sort of step in the next 72 hours, which is 3 days, if you have not taken some kind of step, I don't care how small it is. Mm-hmm. It could be a gym membership. It could be signing up for a class and whatever art you want to do. If you haven't taken some kind of step, that's okay. But it means that you just kind of want it. Yeah. And you got to be at peace with that. Stop tearing yourself down and make a decision. Do you want it or do you kind of want it? And if you realize you want it, then in 72 hours, you've got to take some kind of step. And if you didn't, it means you don't deserve to say you want it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the idea for today was what's stopping you. And we talked about different things that could be potentially stopping you. And we touched on why those aren't healthy. Like why, if you really wanted it, those wouldn't be a problem, really. Yeah. Right? So now at this point, if you're thinking about doing something, you have that splinter that you were just talking about, then take that first step, because there's no reason to wait, because time is limited, right? Mm-hmm. We only have so much time on this planet. We all have different amounts of it, but it's not wait. Like, there's no reason to wait. If we want to go on a journey to lose weight, then why are we tiptoeing this idea, and why aren't we just jumping in?
Right.
You know? So gonna think about that. Like, me personally, I'm gonna think about that. Like, what's going to actually fire me up so that I get addicted to taking better care of myself, you know? Yeah. And I'm gonna find it. You know, I'm just gonna find what that is, and then I'm gonna go for it. That's my plan. So, and I think if everybody just kind of embraced that same idea, then we'd get past whatever's holding us back. All these things we talked about: fear, lack of time, whatever, self-doubt, all these things.
Yeah. And that's what's funny is that the title of this podcast is what's holding you back. And I'm here to tell you the answer is you.
Yeah.
That's what's holding you back.
You.
It's you.
It's simple enough.
Yeah. Some things come easier to others. Some people have more means. They have. I don't care. I don't care. The life's not fair. Life's not fair. There's what's holding you back. You are.
Easy.
That's it.
There we go. We answered the question. This could have been a 5-second podcast.
I know. Let's just, all right, new podcast. What's holding you back? You. See you next week.
Oh, man. So this has been fun.
Yeah.
Doing these podcasts has been super fun. And, we got 2 under our belt now. I hope this one's a little better than the last one, and we'll continue to improve. I hope everyone's still really enjoying it. So far, we've gotten really great feedback.
Yeah.
And we've only had a few hours, actually, of feedback because we record these on Fridays and release on Fridays. So it's like this week delay thing. And so we got a chance to get some feedback for the first one, and it was outstanding. I didn't expect it to go that well, and I'm really excited for the future of this podcast is going to go. Today we got a little more serious than we plan on.
That's going to be the podcast journey roller coaster, right? We're going to have we're going to have some that are just going to straight up be just reminiscing. Let's just talk about some awesome stories, but that's what sort of makes this podcast very special in my eyes, is that there's no one set of rails that we're on. There's not one single topic, right? Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's not what we're doing. We're just all sorts of stuff. So
we got some simple goals though with this podcast. It's to hopefully inspire and help people maybe learn from things that we've learned, and then also hopefully make you laugh.
Yeah.
We got lots of stories, and if you guys are smiling and maybe inspired to take a step forward in whatever journey you've been wanting to go on and haven't taken that first step, if listening to this podcast inspired you to do so, and tomorrow you wake up a brand new person and you go on that journey, even if one person has that happen, right, I feel super accomplished with what we just spent the last hours working on with this podcast. So anyway, I think we're done.
I think we are done. I think we're wrapping it up. So I do want to say, if you're watching this on YouTube, do me a favor. If there's topics that you're like, I hope they cover this one day, throw it in the comments. Yeah. Throw it in the comments. We're not going to, we might do it. We might not. Right.
Yeah. We have a bunch of ideas on what we want to talk about, but let's keep the hopper filled with future podcast ideas. And we still don't know what we're doing as far as podcast ratings and stuff. So if you're listening and you have a chance to give us 5-star rating or whatever,
I don't know how that works.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah,
help us spread the word of this podcast and give us all the good views and thumbs up and whatever. But we appreciate you guys and all the awesome feedback so far. So looking forward to hearing what you guys think about this one.
Yeah,
it's been an interesting one.
Me too. I'll see you next week, man.
Right. See you guys.
See ya.